So Varun will be speaking on myopia greater than 10 diopters. Is there any possibility of spectacle-free vision?
So good morning everybody. At the outset I would like to thank Praveen for making me a part of this interesting course. So as we all know, refractive surgery is to change in a permanent way the refractive power of the eye, and this can be done in three different ways. Either we change the surface of the corneal, either we change the power of the corneal surface, or we change the power of the lens, or we introduce a new refractive surface in between the cornea and the lens. So when I get a patient in the OPD where the power is more than 10 diopters, the only options are either you introduce a new refractive surface or you change the power of the lens, because ablating the corneal surface alone may not be enough. So the most common treatment in these patients is phakic IOLs. Earlier we used to have the anterior chamber IOLs as well, which were angle fixated or iris fixated, but nowadays we go ahead only with the posterior chamber phakic intraocular lenses. Now these lenses basically sit in the sulcus or float in the aqueous humor. Vaulting is the space between the lens and the anterior surface of the crystalline lens. It is in close contact with our human crystalline lens and very much away from the endothelial surface of the cornea. So the most commonly used, or nowadays what we use, is the STAR VCN ICL. It is made up of a Collamer material which is very biocompatible. The advantage is that it basically causes protein repulsion, and as we know that the crystalline lens is made up of the crystalline proteins. It has a plate haptic design. The new modification is the ICL V4C, which has a tiny central hole in between, and thereby we do not find an increase in the intraocular pressure nowadays after we put these lenses in the sulcus, and thereby no PI is needed in these cases. It's very important to look into the anterior chamber anatomy, a proper AC depth, the endothelium profile, the shape of the iris, the festooned pupils, or basically large pupillary sizes or iris holes may not be a good candidate for the ICL. The ICL is basically available between 3 to 15, and astigmatism up to 2.5 diopters can be corrected. The anterior chamber depth should be more than 3 millimeters, but nowadays the studies suggest that even ACD up to 2.8 millimeters we can actually implant an ICL. The refraction of the patient has to be stable for the last 6 months to 1 year. Now when we want to order an ICL, the most important readings are the keratometric readings. You must do a good refraction, both spherical and cylindrical. The white to white is very important. We must do it ourselves with the help of a calipers. I never leave it to my assistants in the OT. I always use the digital caliper so as to be able to get the right reading up to the decimal points. I also repeat white to white with an IOL master. Generally the IOL master always gives the white to white 0.5 mm more as the reading of the calipers. The AC depth is measured generally with the help of an ASOCT and a specular count to know the status of the endothelium cells. So as you can see here, you can have AC depth varying to as less as 2 to up to 3.52. As I already mentioned, anterior chamber depth more than 2.8, you can go ahead with an phakic IOL. The diameter of the ICL depends on the wide to wide distance, and the diameter of the ICL is generally oversized by 0.5 to 1. The endothelial cell count has to be done at 3 different times: before the surgery, very important, 3 months after the surgery to know if there was any surgical trauma, and then after a year to see whether there is any accelerated loss of the endothelial cells. Now this is an indicative of what the endothelial cell numbers should be for the patient to be fit for a phakic IOL. A short ICL will lead to a decentration of the phakic IOL and a small vaulting. When you have a small vault, there is an increased chance of having cataract formation. A long IOL may have an excessive vault, and in these cases there is more chance for the iris convexity to happen and the intraocular pressures to rise. And if there is no vault or the vault is less, you will have subcapsular cataractous opacities, and in these cases you may actually have to explant the phakic IOL and do a cataract surgery as well, which can be very dangerous for the surgeon. So in the ICL surgery, load the ICL in the cartridge, make 2 side ports and a main incision, introduce it like an IOL, and then place it behind the iris. If I have time, I'll be showing you a video as well. 1 minute. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So the complications of a phakic IOL can be sometimes while putting the ICL, you can flip it inside. If the phakic IOL has flipped, it is always better to extend your incision and then remove it and then replace it again. Don't try to flip the phakic IOLs inside the AC because it can damage the endothelium. You can develop the anterior capsular, the subcapsular opacities if the vaulting is less. There can be cases of RD in case you have not barraged the peripheral lattice degenerations, and an acute rise in IOP used to happen earlier, but nowadays with the VCN ICL4 technology, wherein you have a central hole, you don't find these complications. Halos and glares can be found, especially during night time. A pupillary ovalization was common in cases of angle-supported phakic IOLs, but now since we are doing a posterior chamber, these are not very common. Uveitis and cataract as already discussed. Now the second most important concept for treating a patient with more than 10 diopters would be bioptics. In a case of bioptics, you would first implant a phakic IOL. So in a case of, to use the concept of bioptics, you would first implant a phakic IOL to reduce the power, then wait for about 3 months for the refractive error to stabilize, and then use one of the PRK or a LASIK procedure to make the power 0. Yeah, I'll just take 1 minute more, it's my last slide. And the third important thing would be a refractive lens exchange. This will be covered by Dr. Ashok in detail. I just want to quote this study done at Cochrane in the Netherlands, wherein 62 cases were done, wherein a refractive lens exchange was done in cases of high myopia, and only 2 cases did have an RD, wherein the barrage laser was not done. The YAG laser had to be done later in about a year, in about 38 patients. So basically, refractive lens exchange is a very good procedure which can be done in patients who are nearing the presbyopic age, because they are already they have already resigned to the idea of wearing glasses in the near future. Thank you very much. Thanks.
So